If you have been paying attention to the background details in Port Charles lately, you have probably noticed the sheer crushing weight of the legal chaos currently suffocating the Miller and Davis law firm. Just picture the physical space of that office right now. The endless stacks of case files, the glowing computer screens deep into the night, the half-empty coffee cups scattered across every available surface. Alexis Davis and Diane Miller are operating at their absolute breaking point. They are juggling Curtis Ashford's impending plea deal, Britt Westbourne's complicated extradition from Tortola, and Willow Kane's terrifying hit-and-run framing crisis. The volume of work is staggering, and the exhaustion on Alexis's face is palpable. But amid all that chaos, there is a quiet, eerie void in the room. An empty desk. Marco Rios' desk. Everyone in town believes Marco is gone, a tragic victim of Ross Cullum's brutality, a fact recently brought to light by Sonny Corinthos. But as I watched Alexis stare at that empty space, something about that moment stayed with me. It felt too quiet, too unresolved for a city that thrives on noise. The firm is quite literally drowning, and it is painfully obvious that they are in desperate need of a lifeline. They need a new associate, a fresh legal mind to step in and help carry the immense burden of these high-stakes cases. The rumors of a new hire have been quietly circulating, whispering through the corridors of the courthouse and the hospital. They need someone sharp, someone hungry, someone who can navigate the treacherous waters of Port Charles's legal system without being eaten alive by the local sharks. The question isn't whether they will hire someone. The question is who will walk through that door to claim the empty desk. I keep coming back to one specific name on the roster of returning faces, Serena Baldwin. We know she is making her way back to the chaotic streets of Port Charles, stepping off the plane with a fresh face and what appears to be a brand new agenda. At first glance, it might just seem like another legacy character returning for a dose of family drama or a tangled romantic storyline. But when you look closer at the board, her timing is far too perfect to ignore. Serena is not just a random arrival. She carries the heavy, complex, and often controversial legacy of her father, Scott Baldwin. Imagine the psychological shift for Serena. Instead of getting swept up in the typical soap opera entanglements, what if she is returning with a strict, unwavering focus on building a hardcore career in law? She has the Baldwin legal blood running through her veins, and stepping into the Miller and Davis law firm would be the ultimate crucible for her. Working directly under the intense mentorship of two legal titans like Alexis and Diane would be a masterclass in litigation and survival. It would be a brilliant way for her to honor her father's legacy while carving out her own formidable reputation in a city that respects nothing but power and resilience. But the more I think about it, the more I realize there is a massive shadow beneath this story. A second, much darker narrative playing out in the absolute dark, far away from the polished desks of the law firm. It involves the WSB, a massive cover-up, and a highly classified deal brokered in the shadows by Jocelyn Jacks and the mysterious WSB head known only as Z. We know that Jocelyn made a secret arrangement to pin all of Ross Cullum's horrendous crimes on the deceased Cassius Faison in order to secure the freedom of Jason Morgan and Valentine Cassidy. But as part of that cover-up, Jocelyn had to ask Lucas Jones to do the unthinkable. Jocelyn explicitly asked Lucas to keep the darkest secret of all, that Ross Cullum was the one who actually murdered his partner, Marco Rios. We saw Lucas agree to this, though he was visibly unhappy and conflicted about letting a brutal killer's actions be swept under the rug. But let us pause and really examine that interaction. Why would a fiercely loyal, deeply grieving man simply accept a government cover-up of his partner's murder? Why would he nod and walk away, allowing the truth of Marco's tragic end to be buried forever? Something feels unfinished. The emotional math just does not add up for someone like Lucas Jones. Maybe there's another layer here. What if Marco Rios never actually died on that terrible night? What if he barely survived the brutal, bloody attack by Ross Cullum? It is possible that Lucas, a highly skilled and resourceful medical professional, found him clinging to life and made a split-second, desperate decision. Lucas knows anatomy, he knows severe trauma, and most importantly, he knows exactly how to manipulate the hospital system. He could have stabilized Marco off the books, utilizing his medical access to gather supplies, and hidden him away in a secure, undisclosed location far from the prying eyes of the WSB. If you look at the motivations, faking Marco's death makes absolute terrifying sense. Ross Cullum was not just a rogue agent. He was a highly trained, utterly ruthless WSB double agent who would not hesitate to finish the job if he knew Marco was still breathing. And the threat did not stop with Cullum. We cannot forget the looming, terrifying specter of Jen Sidwell. Sidwell is not just a villain. He is Marco's own father. A calculating, cold-blooded man who brings death and destruction wherever he steps. Marco was essentially being hunted by the most dangerous men on the planet. Faking his death might not have been a strategic choice. It might have been the only absolute way to ensure his survival and protect Lucas from being caught in the deadly crossfire. But look at how the board has dramatically shifted in recent days. The pieces have been completely rearranged. Ross Cullum is dead. His grand cold fusion plans turned to ash during the fiery confrontation on Spoon Island. His reign of terror is over. His crimes buried by the very agency he betrayed. And then there is Jen Sidwell. The ruthless father has been cornered, his elaborate revenge traps dismantled, and his criminal empire brought to a sudden, crushing halt by the authorities and the relentless pressure from Sonny Corinthos. The two greatest, most lethal threats to Marco's existence have been simultaneously erased from the board. It doesn't seem accidental that just as the Miller and Davis law firm hits its absolute breaking point of desperation, the coast finally clears for Marco Rios. The timing aligns with a precision that feels almost orchestrated by fate. I can't shake the feeling that Lucas Jones has been secretly visiting a quiet safe house for weeks, checking bandages, monitoring vitals, and watching Marco slowly heal in the shadows. I can practically see them sitting in a dim room, watching the local news on a tablet, waiting for the exact right moment to break their silence and bring Marco back to the world of the living. Imagine the absolute seismic shockwave that would hit the Miller and Davis law firm if the door opens and Marco Rios walks in, fully healed and ready to reclaim his life. The emotional impact on Alexis and Diane would be staggering. The sudden realization of what Lucas has been doing all this time, the immense burden he has carried with a straight face while everyone offered him their condolences. It would instantly solve the firm's crippling staffing shortage with someone who already knows the files, knows the clients, and has proven his unwavering competence time and time again. We are looking at two incredibly distinct, powerful paths for the future of that empty desk. On one hand, we have Serena Baldwin stepping out of her father's shadow, carrying her briefcase, and ready to prove herself in the most intense, unforgiving legal environment in the city. It is a story of legacy, ambition, and new beginnings. On the other hand, we have the miraculous, shocking resurrection of Marco Rios, a story of survival, deep deception, and a love so fierce it literally defied death. Both possibilities represent a massive tectonic shift for Port Charles, a new chapter born directly from the ashes of exhaustion, secrets, and grief. What if we're missing something? What if the truth is hovering right in front of us, disguised as a casual conversation or a fleeting glance? The story is far from over. The tension is only growing as the legal files continue to pile up on Alexis's desk. We are standing in the dark hallway, watching the light spill from the crack under the Miller and Davis office door. We can hear the footsteps approaching, echoing against the tile, but we cannot see the face yet. The narrative is still unfolding, the shadows are still dancing, and we are just waiting in the quiet suspense for that door to swing wide open.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.